Hello and welcome to the 4 Operations with Decimals with Cube Education. In this lecture, you will add and subtract decimal numbers, multiply decimal numbers and divide decimal numbers, all without a calculator. So let's start with an example of adding decimals without a calculator. Adding and subtracting decimals works in exactly the same way, and all you need to do is put them into the correct columns. So here's a question. We've got 2.63 plus 45.6. So we're going to put them into columns using the hundreds, tens and units method, okay? So you need to be really careful, and as you write them out, make sure that you put the decimal point in exactly the same place. So we've got 2.63 and then 45.6. As long as you get that bit right, you can't really go wrong. I'm also going to add a 0 here, just so we can see that that is just going to be a nice addition. We're not going to have to worry that there's nothing there. So then we're just going to add down the vertical columns. So 3 add 0 is 3. 6 add 6 is 12. When we have a number that's got tens in it, so it's not just units, we've got 3 as the units on this answer here. Well, not really units, but you know what I mean. It's not got any tens in it, it's just a number on its own. You've got 3 there. Here, because we've got 12, we have to separate the tens and units. So the 2 goes there, and then the 10 gets carried over to the next column, which I'm sure you remember from school. So then we're just going to add 2 and 5, and we have to add the 1 as well, which gives us 8, and then we've just got 4 on its own. So our answer is 48.23. Okay, right, let's have a look at doing the same kind of thing, but with a subtraction question. So we have 4.32 minus 2.56. Okay, so again, we're going to put them in the columns, and we're going to keep our decimal points in exactly the same place. 4.32. 2.56. Okay, nice question actually. Now be careful, because when we're subtracting it gets a little bit difficult. So the first thing you've got to do is subtract down the vertical lines, and we have 2 take away 6. Now we can't actually do 2 take away 6 because 2 is smaller than 6. So we have to borrow 1 from the column next to it. So if we borrow 1 from here, that becomes a 2, and the 1 that we've borrowed moves along here to make it a 12. 12 take away 6 is 6. And now we have 2 take away 5. Again, we can't do 2 take away 5. So we're going to borrow from the next column. Okay, don't worry about the decimal point being there, you're still allowed to do this. So that now becomes a 3. And then the 1 moves over to make this a 12. 12 take away 5 is 7. And then the last bit is 3 take away 2, which is 1. So our answer is 1.76. Okay, so I hope you've understood that. Please watch it as many times as necessary until you understand that method, and there will be some tasks to practice at the end of the video. Okay, so if you want to pause the video and have a go at these few questions, see how you get on using a written method, just on paper or something, and then I'll go through the answers. Okay, if you've had a go, let's go through the answers. So we've got 24.45, 75.53, 82.62 and 5.53. Okay, so I hope you got all those right. Let's move on. We're going to do some multiplying now. So we've got a few ways to go through multiplication. So let's look at this question first. 2.3 times 1.2. Now the first method you could use is the column method. Now I've taken out all the decimal points. I'm not bothered with them yet. I'm just going to multiply without them. So this is a method that a lot of older people will remember, or you've probably gone through in school, and you're not sure about it because it can get confusing when you've got big numbers. But we haven't got numbers that are too big, so this is quite a nice method to use for this one. So the first thing we have to do is we have to times everything by this 2. Okay, so we're going to do 3 times 2 and put our answer there, which is 6, and then we're going to do 2 times 2 and put our answer there, which is 4. Okay, so everything on top has been multiplied by this 2. Now we're going to add another line, and because we're moving from the units column into the tens column, we must add a 0 here first. And then what we're going to do is multiply everything by this 1. So we're going to do 3 times 1, which is 3, and I put my answer there. And then I'm going to do 2 times 1, which is 2, and I'm going to put my answer there. Okay, so if it helps you to use colours like this, then I would recommend it. Now all we've got to do now is add those together. So I've drawn out my addition table like I did do in the previous questions when we were just adding, and I'm just going to add along the vertical columns. 6 add 0 is 6, 4 add 3 is 7, and then there's 2 on its own. Now, obviously our answer isn't 276 because we've only got some small numbers here, okay, 2.3 and 1.2. So all you need to remember is that I have got one number after the decimal point here, and I only have one number after the decimal point here. So technically that's 2 decimal places. So I need to go back from the end of my number, 1, 2, and I end up putting my decimal point in there, giving us an answer of 2.76. Okay? Alright, let's have a look at another one. So here's another way of doing that multiplication. Okay? Now, if you're still a bit unsure on these methods, there is a video of multiplying, dividing without a calculator, without decimal numbers, but it will still help you with the methods. So, again, 2.3 times 1.2, we're going to do the same question, but instead I'm going to do it like this. And I'm going to split this 2.3 and I'm going to pretend it's 23, just for now. And I'm going to put 20 there, and then 3 there. And then I'm going to pretend that this is 12. I'm going to just remove the decimals, so I'd add 10 there and 2 there. Okay, so I've split the numbers into tens and units and ignore the decimal points for now. And then I'm just going to times across, basically. So I'm going to do 10 times 20, okay, which is 200, because you just do 1 times 2, which is 2, and then add the 2 zeros on the end. And then I'm going to do 10 times 3. Okay, well, 1 times 3 is 3, and I've got 1 0, so that'll be 30. 2 times 20, well, 2 times 2 is 4, add the 0, and then 2 times 3 is 6. And all I have to do now is add all of those numbers together, 200 plus 30 plus 40 plus 6. So all this down here is 6, 3 plus 4 is 7, and then we've got the 2 on its own. And again, we've got to now do our decimal places, so I've got one number after the decimal point here, one number after the decimal point here, which means that's 2 decimal places, so I'm going to go back 1, 2, and my decimal point will go there. So my answer is still 2.76. I thought I'd show you the same question so you could see the difference in the method. Okay, right, here is another way. Now, I've used similar numbers, but I've made them bigger, because this method is good when you've got bigger numbers. Okay, so we've got 22.3 times 12.4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend that this, if I move the decimal point, is 223. So I'm going to put 223. And then this one I'm going to pretend it's 124. So I've got 100, 20, and 4. Okay? So, I'm still using the same method as I used previously. Sorry, I thought I was going to go on to my final method, but I'm going to give you one more example with large numbers. This method is still really good for large numbers, but my third method, which I'll show you in a minute, is even better because it works out the answer much easier for you. So, same method then, 100 times 200, again, 1 times 2 is 2, but I've got 4 zeros here, so it's going to be 20,000. This is why it's probably tricky to add all these together at the end, because they're quite big numbers now. 100 times 20, well, 1 times 2 is 2, and then 3 zeros. 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 zeros. Okay, so then 20 times 200, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 zeros. 20 times 20, or 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 zeros. 1 0 there, and 1 0 there. 20 times 3, well, that's 60, we should know that. 4 times 200, okay, well, 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 zeros. 4 times 20, 80, and 4 times 3 is 12. So now the problem is adding all of these together. So I've got this huge addition chart here, which I understand why this may be a bit long-winded. So let's add all these down in this column here. We've just got 2, and then adding all of these, we've got 8, 6, and 1. So because that makes like a number with a 10 in it, so what have we got? 12, 15. So we've got our 5 there, okay, and we carry our 1 on to the next column. So 8 plus 6 plus 1 makes 15. The 5 goes there, the 1 gets carried over. So then we've got 15 again, 8 plus 4 plus 3, plus that 1 here makes 16. So 6, carry our 1 over again, because we've got 16. 4 plus 2 plus the 1 again gives us 7, and then we've just got this 2 on its own. So, before I show you that answer, I just want to make sure that you are aware about the decimal places. So this will be our final answer, but we have 1 decimal place here. We have to go back and put these in now. Okay, and we have 1 number after the decimal point there. So it's 2 decimal places backwards. So from here, 1, 2, and our decimal point would go there. And this would be our final answer. Okay. Right, so let me just check that this is the correct method I'm going to use. Yes. Now, I'm going to use the same question again, 2.3 times 1.2. And again, I've split it up and I've taken the decimals out. But this time, instead of making it 23 and 10 and 2, I've just got rid of the decimal points and put the numbers in. So this method is called the lattice method. And it's a really nice method for doing longer calculations. It's quite annoying to draw out the grids every time, but in the end, it does work out nicely. So what I'm going to do now is times across as normal, but before I do that, I need to put in some diagonal lines. Okay, and what happens is I end up putting my tens in this section and my units in this section. So you'll see what I mean as I go through. So 1 times 2 is 2, which means 0 will go there and 2 will go there because I've got 0 tens and 2 units. 1 times 3 is 3, so 0 there and 3 there. 2 times 2 is 4, 0 there, 4 there. And 2 times 3 is 6, 0 there and 6 there. Okay, so our answers to that one are nice and easy. And then the last thing you've got to do is kind of extend these lines a little bit. Okay, the reason I do that is to remind myself that I've got to add up underneath the lines. Okay, so underneath this line, I have 6. So I'm just going to put 6 there as my answer. Underneath this entire line, I have 4 and 3. Well, 4 and 3 makes 7. And then underneath this line, I've got 2. So 2 goes there. I don't need to worry about this because it's a 0. If it was something else, I'd just add it on the end, okay? So again, 276. I've got 1 number after the decimal point there, 1 number after the decimal point there. So my final answer is 2.76 because I've had to go back 2 decimal places. Okay? Right. Let's have a look at that method again using this longer question. Okay, so again, like I say, you don't have to split it into 223. We'll just get rid of the decimals and put 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4. We don't have to worry about the decimals, okay, and we don't have to worry about any zeros. Let's add in our lattice shape. That's why it's called the lattice method, because we've got these diagonals going through. Okay, I don't know if you can hear, I'm sitting outside recording this, and there's so many bees. It's just driving me mad. Okay, so we're going to go across, and we're going to do 1 times 2 is 2, so 0 there, 2 there. Okay, so don't forget our tens are in there. We've not got any tens. Units are in there. 1 times 2 again is 2, and then 1 times 3 is 3. Okay. Okay, so 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. And the last one I've got 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 2 is also 8. And then 4 times 3. Now 4 times 3 is 12. So 12's got a 10 in it. So I'm going to have to put a 1 there and a 2 there. Okay? So that's how that works, 12. It's easy, you can just see 12. Just one's in the top, one's in the bottom. Okay? Extend our lattices. Okay, so we can remind ourselves as to what we're going to add along. So along this line, underneath this line, I have 2, so that goes there. Underneath this line, I've got 15, so underneath this line, because I've got 15, I can't just write 15, I still have to carry. So I put my 5 there, and then my 1 moves over into this diagonal line. Now underneath this diagonal line, I have 8 plus 4, which is 12, plus 3, which is 15, plus our extra 1, which is 16. So that entire addition is 16. So I'll put my 6 in there and I carry my 1 over again to the next column. Okay, so then let's look at this column. We've got 4 plus 2 plus the 1, giving us 7. So 7 goes there. All right, So I've put the carried ones in red so that you don't get confused, and sometimes people like get confused and end up adding the wrong thing. I don't know how, but anyway, it might be easier to put it in a different colour. And then this next one we have 4 and 2. Okay. Oh no, we don't. See, we don't have 4 and 2. We just have 2. 4 is part of the question. That's my fault. So in this one we have 2, which goes there, and then we've got 0 there. Okay, so our entire answer here, this is our actual answer, which is why I like this method, because your answer is just written there for you as you go along. But obviously I've got one decimal place, one number after the decimal point there, and one number after the decimal point there, which means I have to go in twice. So 1, 2. Okay, so my decimal point goes there, and my final answer is 276.52. Okay, so again, I was accidentally adding this 4. Okay, that's again another reason why I did it in a different colour, because that 4 is the question, and I was adding it into my answer, which I shouldn't have done. Okay, so it's just the blue numbers. Alright, that's where you might get confused. Okay, so let's move on. There are 5 questions here for you to have a go at. Pause the video and have a go, and I'll press play for the answers. Okay, if you've had a go, let's go through the answers. So we've got 9.54, 198.4, 84.24, 42.164, and 302.088. Okay, now just so you're aware, this, we can't say 42.164. This isn't 164. This is 42.164. This isn't hundreds. These are like hundredths or tenths and things like that. So we can't say 164. You have to say 164. Okay, right. Short and long division then, without a calculator. Now, you can leave the decimal points in if you like, but I'm going to take them out for this tutorial. So, instead of using 23.4 divided by 6, I'm going to do 234 divided by 6. So, the first thing I've got to do is think, right, can I put 6's, okay, into 2? No, I can't. So, I have to put 6's into 23 instead. Now, I've got my 6 times table up here just to help you. How many times can I fit 6 into 23? Well, 1, 2, 3. I can't go any further because it's too high. So I can fit 3. Okay, so I'll put my 3 above there. From 18 up to the 23, what is the remainder? Okay, and that's 5. So my remainder goes there, and I've put it in a different colour so I can remind myself that now that is my remainder. So now I want to know how many 6's go into 54. Okay, so again, I've written out the 6 times table for you so you can see. But I do suggest you learn all of your tables because it just makes life so much easier in the non-calculator paper. Okay, so we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it fits in exactly 9 times. So our answer would be 39, but if we look, we do have one number after the decimal point there, which means I have to go in backwards 1 place, and that's where I put my decimal point. So my answer is 3.9. Okay, let's have a look at this one. If you want to pause the video and have a go first, you can, and then I'll go through the answers. So pause it now. Okay, so we've got, instead of doing 95.8, which actually would be fine if you left the decimal point in as well, but I've taken it out just for this. So how many 2's go into 9? That's an easy one. Okay, so I've done a bit of a 2 times table here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 goes in, but I've got a remainder because it only goes up to 8, and I've got 9. So I've got 1 remainder. How many 2's into 15? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, if I go to the next one, it's too big. I can fit 7 in, but I've got 1 remainder as well because it's from 4, it goes up to 14, whereas I've got 15. So 1 remainder goes there. And then how many 2's go into 18? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 goes there. And because I have one number after my decimal point here, I have to go in 1 place backwards, and my decimal point goes there. So my actual answer is 47.9. Okay. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. We've got 37.8 divided by 4. So for this one, I've taken out the decimal point again, just to make it easier. I think it's easier for me anyway, especially with this question because it is a bit harder. So what we're going to do is we can't put 4 into 3, so we have to put 4 into 37. So I have got my 4 times table up here. Now, like I said before, please try and learn all your times tables, but this one is just here to help you. So how many 4s can I fit into 37? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If I go any further, it's too high, so I can fit in 9. So I'm going to put my 9 there above the 7 because I've used the entire number. And I've got one remainder from 36 up to 37, so I'm going to put my remainder in there. Now what I'm going to do is try and see how many 4s I can fit into 18. So looking at my numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4. I can't go any higher than 4. But I've only got to 16, so I've got 2 remainders. Now what happens here is we've got no numbers left. And because we've got no numbers left, it means I need to add a 0. But because I add a 0, I also have to add a decimal point. Okay, I know it sounds weird because we're working with decimal points anyway, but just trust me on this. So we add a decimal point there, and we add our 0. And because we've done that, we can now say how many 4s go into 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exactly. So it'd be 94.5. But we had to add this decimal point because of this 0. We also need to move our decimal point because of the decimal in the question. So we've got one number after the decimal point, which means we need to move this decimal point back one more place, giving us a final answer of 9.45. Okay, it's very unlikely that you'll get a question with that difficulty, but if you do, you'll be able to solve it. Okay, so pause the video and have a go at a few questions and press play for the answers. Okay, if you've had a go, I'm going to go through the answers then. We have 26.04, 4.3 and 7.6. So I hope you did really well on all of those. If you need any more help with the 4 operations, there is another video that doesn't involve decimals, which is also worth a look, and definitely practicing some of the questions that you get in there. So well done, and thank you very much for using Cubit Education, and I'll see you next time.